Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really fascinating set of sources, all centered on one single physical thing, an old audio tape.
Yeah, it's from a narrative called The Haunting Truth of the Confession Tape. It's quite something.
And our goal for this deep dive isn't really about solving the crime itself.
No, not at all. It's much more about looking at how shaky the idea of proof,
Yes,
definitive proof, can actually be.
Right. We want to unpack the story of a reel-to-reel tape. First, it was like the ultimate evidence, irrefutable.
And then it slowly started to unravel everything, not just the case, but maybe even how we think about justice itself.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1988, Washington, D.C., cold case units back then. I mean, lots of paper, lots of just instinct. And they had this murder, a federal employee killed years before. Totally baffling.
Yeah, baffling is the word. No suspect, no clear motive, really no solid evidence, just nothing. A lot of dead ends.
You can feel the frustration building up over the years, right? Everyone wanted this closed.
Absolutely. And that's the backdrop for the discovery.
Yeah.
A detective named Brian, he's going through old archive boxes, standard cold case stuff.
And he finds this, pretty ordinary-looking cardboard box in cold storage.
But the label?
The label, it was something else, like out of a movie, Confession Do Not Erase.
Exactly. Talk about a find. This tape, inside this box, it felt like the answer. The long-awaited truth, just sitting there.
You have to picture it, right? The detective, the old reel-to-reel machine, threading the tape, so much writing on what's about to play.
Years of work, yeah. All potentially revolved by this one recording.
Okay, let's dive into that. Segment 1, the illusion of the solved case. What did they actually hear?
Well, it sounded compelling. The voice was nervous, kind of halting.
So, not smooth or practiced.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, made it seem more real at first. And the words were chilling. I did it. I killed him. I dumped the body by the river.
Wow.
I used his credit cards. I saw his blood on my hands. All the key things you'd expect in a confession.
So, when that finished playing, I bet you could hear a pin drop.
Oh, definitely. For the initial team listening, this was it. Confirmation. It seemed to line up with, some of the theories they'd kicked around over the years, like the missing credit cards.
It was the smoking gun they'd needed for so long.
Right. So, boom. Case declared solved. Pretty much entirely based on this audio.
That moment must have felt incredible for them. Closure. But Detective Brian, the guy who found the box, he wasn't quite buying it, was he?
No. Almost immediately, he noticed something off. Something that started to chip away at that certainty.
Who was it? What did he spot?
It wasn't really about what the voice said. It was about what wasn't in the case file before that tape existed.
Wait, hang on. You mean the specific details in the confession, like where the body was dumped by the river?
Uh-huh.
That wasn't information the police already had confirmed back in the 80s.
Precisely. None of those specific, verifiable facts, the body disposal spot, how exactly the credit cards were used, none of that was documented anywhere in the official file prior to this tape being recorded.
Okay, wow. Let's just pause on that because that's a huge paradox, isn't it?
It's the absolute core of the problem.
If the killer was genuinely confessing these things, it should have been brand new information to the police.
Right. Stuff only the killer would know.
But if it was brand new information, how did it somehow match the theories the police already had? Where did those theories come from, if not from prior evidence?
That's the chilling part. The voice on the tape, it didn't actually reveal anything unique that only the real killer would know about the crime scene or the specifics of the act.
Instead,
the voice seemed to know things that only the police knew. Or, maybe more accurately, things the police suspected or theorized about internally.
so it's like the confession wasn't revealing truth. It was reflecting police theories back at them.
Kind of like an echo chamber. It was as if the person confessing had somehow picked up on the investigators' working hypotheses, maybe through questioning, maybe implicitly.
That's textbook confirmation bias, but weaponized by the evidence itself. They find a tape confirming their ideas, but the tape only has those ideas because they were already floating around the investigation.
Exactly. And that's why Brian, the detective, knew something was seriously wrong. Even before they identified the speaker on the tape, the evidence felt contaminated from the start.
Because it wasn't bringing external truth in, it was reflecting internal assumptions out.
Spot on. It was built on internally generated ideas, not perpetrator knowledge.
All right, so this leads us right into segment 2. The truth starts to unravel. They did eventually track down the woman they believed was on the tape.
They did, and initially she denied everything, claimed innocence.
But the source material describes a pretty harrowing interrogation process.
Yeah, it shifts from the tape itself to the intense psychological pressure of the interview room. She held out for hours, apparently, maintained her innocence. Eventually, under just relentless questioning, she broke. The detective watching Brian, he described how she started to just echo the confession, almost word for word.
Repeating the details from the tape.
Repeating the details they'd heard on the tape, yes, which of course were the very details the police kept bringing up in the questioning.
Oh, man. So Brian finds the tape, thinks it's the answer, then watches as the police seemingly manufacture the corroboration right in front of him.
It's deeply disturbing, whether it was intentional coaching or just the result of intense leading questions under duress. The effect was the same.
The lines just blur, don't they, between finding truth and, well, creating the truth you need.
Absolutely. When someone's exhausted, scared, desperate for the interrogation to end, they often latch on to what they think the authority figure wants to hear. It stops being about innocence and starts being about escape.
And the really crucial part here, the reason this case is such a stark warning, is that even with the tape, and even with her eventual verbal confession in the room, the actual facts, the objective reality, just refuse to cooperate.
The facts were a total nightmare for the prosecution's theory. You had eyewitnesses who placed her miles away when the crime actually happened.
Solid alibi witnesses?
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And physical evidence, just the logistics of the crime described in the confession. They didn't match the known reality of the scene or the timeline. It just didn't add up.
So the physical world was basically screaming, this isn't right, even while they had this recorded confession and a verbal one.
Exactly. And that forced Detective Brian to face this really uncomfortable conclusion. The confession, both on tape and in person, it wasn't real. It wasn't guilt.
It was manufactured.
Manufactured is the right word. Born from suggestion, from exhaustion, from sheer desperation, not from memory of committing a crime.
And for Brian, that must have just shattered everything, his whole framework.
It did. He'd built his career on finding that solid evidence, that irrefutable proof. Yeah. And here was this piece of audio, seemingly definitive, but it was functionally constructed by the process itself. It completely changed how he viewed forensic evidence.
Let's talk about the human side of that. Segment 3, the cost and the blueprint. There's that quote from Brian about the moment she broke. It's just devastating.
Yeah, it really captures the human toll. He said, I'll never forget how her voice changed and she realized what I wanted to hear. It was like she gave up, became a ghost in the room.
Wow. Became a ghost in the room. That image. Someone just surrendering their own reality to fit what's demanded of them.
That's the cost. Right. The profound human damage when the process goes wrong.
And when this whole story, finding the tape, the interrogation, the conflicting facts when it eventually became public, it wasn't just seen as some local mistake, was it?
No, not at all. Legal experts, activists, they immediately saw the broader implications.
Why? What did they see in it?
They saw it as a perfect, almost textbook example. This tape, this investigation, it became a kind of blueprint, as they called it, for how wrongful convictions happen every day.
So not a one-off freak occurrence.
No, sadly. It highlighted how easily law enforcement, especially when under pressure to close a case, can inadvertently create the evidence it thinks it's finding through suggestion, through confirmation bias.
The significance there is just huge, isn't it? This physical tape meant to be the final word, the answer, instead becomes this haunting symbol.
Exactly. It sparked a national conversation about just how reliable confession evidence really is, especially when it's obtained under pressure.
It really forces you to ask that fundamental question. When the need for an answer is so strong, how easily does that need to just push aside the actual facts?
Right. The tape didn't end up solving the murder. It ended up revealing more about the listeners, their biases, their desire for a neat solution.
Okay, let's look at the aftermath. Segment 4, the tape's enduring legacy. So the woman, the accused, she was eventually exonerated, right?
She was, yes.
Yep.
Thankfully, that specific injustice was corrected. But, that doesn't just wrap everything up neatly.
No, I imagine not. What was the lasting damage?
Well, for one, the real killer was never found. That original murder. Still cold. Still unresolved today.
So, no justice for the victim in the end?
None. And think about Detective Brian. The sources say his faith in the system was just fundamentally broken. He had to live with the fact that he played a key role in nearly ruining an innocent person's life. Not out of malice, but because the process itself was flawed.
And the victim's family. They must have gone through hell. Closure, then ripped away back to uncertainty.
Unimaginable. Years of thinking it was solved, then finding out it was all based on a mistake. Decades of pain reopened.
And what about the tape itself, the physical object?
It ends up back where it started, in the archives.
Yeah.
Same cold storage. But now, it sits there unmarked. It's never been played in court again. Just a silent reminder of this whole disaster.
A relic of failure, basically.
Yeah. But the sources give us one last detail, a final twist that really underscores the whole psychological angle of this.
Oh.
Well, the tape is still in the archives, right? So every few years, some new cold case detective, maybe someone who doesn't know the whole toxic history.
Stumbles across the box, sees the label.
Exactly. Finds the box, reads "Confession Do Not Erase," gets curious, threads it up, and listens. And here's the really unnerving part. The source material suggests that every time someone new listens, the words on the tape seem to subtly shift. They seem to hear things slightly differently, reflecting maybe what they expect or need to hear.
Whoa. So the tape stays the same, but the meaning changes with the listener.
Was it ever really a confession? Or was it just, as the source puts it, a shadow of what we needed to believe? The implication is chilling. The truth of the tape isn't fixed. It changes with each new set of ears.
That is quite a final thought. And maybe that's the real takeaway for all of us, for you listening. When you're faced with information, especially high-stakes stuff, you have to account for your own biases, your own need for things to make sense.
That pressure for certainty is powerful.
It really is. And if the facts are ambiguous, we're all tempted to fill in the blanks ourselves. Sometimes, as this case shows, with truly tragic consequences.
In the end, that confession tape didn't reveal the killer. It revealed us. Our tendency to hear what we desperately need to be true.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into how truth can be constructed, contested, and ultimately how fragile it can be.